meeting. We have someone here who can conduct an invocation. Yes, we'll have our housing commissioner go ahead and lead us in an invocation.
Good evening. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing everyone to be here that represents the city of Baldwin Park. We pray that everything that's done here tonight will be done decent and in order. We thank you for the leaders that you've put in our path. We thank you for the residents who are concerned about their community. We just ask that you be in the midst of this meeting and everything that's said and done. Amen.
And closed session has not ended, City Attorney, so I don't believe there's anything to report out yet. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you for that. And an important announcement, the City Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening. And each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. We will go ahead and move to our staff introductions.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I do roll call?
Oh, yes, please. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Alejandra Avila. Here. Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian.
Here.
Mayor Emanuel Estrada.
Here. Thank you for that. City Clerk.
And me.
And don't forget Marie Contreras.
Marie Contreras.
Excuse me, I have a question. Did I miss the flag salute?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, sorry.
Okay, no worries, Marie. Definitely nice to hear you.
Thank you.
Great. So we are going to introduce some of our new staff members. And then I'll call you up, and then you can join us up here on the dais. So we have our newest staff members include Nick Ledesma, who is a human resources technician. And we have Diana Consiglio, who is another human resources technician. Romani Vasilios, who is an engineer manager. We have Sandra Leva, who is a program coordinator. And we have Luis Loera, who is a maintenance worker. So very excited to welcome all of you to our team. It's always neat to have new members of the Baldwin Park City. I'm sure you're going to enjoy working with us. Yes, and thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have you all on board. Very excited to get some work done with you.
Yes, welcome.
And so at this moment, I will go ahead and open public communications. City Clerk, is there anybody looking to speak?
Yes, Mayor. We have Catherine Lozier, our local librarian, is here to speak on the library.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and members of the community. The LA County Library is celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month, which will run from September 15th through October 15th. Among the activities we have some special virtual programs. Coming up on Tuesday, September 27th at 1 p.m., we have an author talk, a virtual author talk with author Hernan Diaz. He's the author of a book called Trust, which is set in the Roaring 20s and features a tycoon and his ex-wife. We also have a very special program taking place in Spanish on medicinal plants of California. This will be co-sponsored by the Theodore Payne Foundation. Again, it's a virtual program. It's taking place on Wednesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. And in the program, the Theodore Payne staff members will be discussing some of the common native plants that were used in traditional medicine of both California and of northern Baja California. Our 43rd annual bookmark contest for children and teens from kindergarten through 12th grade has launched this week. It will run through October 29th. Children are welcome to come in and celebrate a love of reading by creating a bookmark. Winners that are selected will be mass-produced and will be available in libraries and across LA County. And people can sign up both by coming in the library and getting a form or by completing a form online and submitting it there. And then the library also has just added a new database that may be of interest. It's called Newspaper Archive. It is one of the largest historical newspaper databases online. And it contains tens of thousands of newspapers, and some of them local. Unfortunately, it doesn't have San Gabriel Valley Tribune, but it does have some newspapers from Pasadena, Arcadia, and Covina, and I Googled Baldwin Park, and some things come up. So if you'd like to know a little bit about Baldwin Park history, it's fun for students as well as those who love history. And that's available on our databases with your library card. So thank you so much for all that you do. Visit us online at lacountylibrary.org. Visit us at the Baldwin Park Library, or give us a call at 626-962-6947. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Next is Manuel Maldonado. He would like to speak on city services, police rendered to public.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council, as well as staff. My name is Manuel Maldonado, an organizer, a resident of the city of La Puente, former resident of the city of Baldwin Park. This evening I'm here, and I thought I would bring you my concerns about the city of Baldwin Park so you guys can improve the services rendered by your police department. And by the way, I left a message for the chief of police, and I'm still waiting for his call to this date. I'd like to say that for being the city that you are, you need to improve in the services that your desk people have towards people that come to request services at your city. I have here a family which I am helping to assist in an immigration matter, and we needed a letter or something, a police report from the police department in regards to an incident that happened back in December of 2021. The police report clearly states that it takes 10 days to get a police report. The mom came 2 weeks in a row requesting the document or some sort of document to be submitted to immigration in conjunction with the police report. She was treated with lack of respect. She was yelled at, and she was told that she was not going to get anything. I had to call your office, and a very nice lady over the phone said, I forgot her name, I believe her last name is Caballero, and she said she would help me and she would get someone to help me. Nobody told the mom there had to be a request of public records in order for her to get the report that she so desperately needs. It's been 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, and we're still waiting. Until today, Mom got a phone call from one of the detectives saying that the report would be ready and she could pick it up. But because we were not able to make it on a timely manner, we have to wait till Friday. So I would recommend your city that the chief of police does return phone calls. And not only that, for him to train better his staff at the desk and I was going to say deputies because we're a contracted city, and the officers that handle matters to the public. It is very disheartening to see that a police department that we are supporting or trying to receive support treats you with the kind of discourtesy that Mrs. Rosa was treated with. And I would recommend that you take a look at the training you provide your staff and make sure, because I come from La Puente, I'm an organizer. And if I was to see that, honestly, I'd be looking to replace some of you in the upcoming elections, honestly. And I can move and shake things. Whenever I call the industry station, I always expect Captain Rector to return my call, and he does.
Your time is up,
He always
sir.
does.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Those are all the written requests, Mayor.
Great, thank you. If anybody else is looking to speak, now is your time.
Good evening, Mayor Estrada, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and a lovely good evening to the community of Baldwin Park who are listening in. I am here on behalf of Project Littles. I would like to introduce ourselves. We are a small community organization that initially began during the peak of the pandemic, but we have since brought a few projects around the city, such as a Christmas gift drive for 2 consecutive years, month distribution of kid craft kits, a clothing warm drive, amongst others. We were initially drawn to the beginning to start the community fridge in Baldwin Park to help address the food insecurity within our community by having a designated location where people in our community can both easily pick up any necessities as well as donate. The biggest challenge that we have faced with this project is finding a stable location for the fridge, which is why we believe being able to make use of the space in the family center for this project would provide not only a stable but easily accessible location for community members. We would also like to suggest the council to place a little library at the family center, a project we've been working with the mayor towards as well. Project Littles is committed to the city's safety, as well as the work that supports learning and thriving of educators, families, and the youth in the city of Baldwin Park. Thank you for your time, and we hope the council will take this opportunity to collaborate with the Baldwin Park Community Organization. Thank you.
Can you provide your name again?
Yeah.
My name is Samantha Farias, and I am here on behalf of Project Littles, a community organization here in Baldwin Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, City Council, Baldwin Park residents. You know, when I come down here to see the City Council, I don't see but three of you. I guess the rest of them don't care. You know, under the Constitution, we voted for these people to be here. I know you're looking at my eyes, wondering what the heck's wrong with this guy. But we didn't vote them to stay home. We voted them to be here. They represent the residents of Baldwin Park here, not at their personal home. Or you showed a black TV up here for one of your so-called council persons. What's the matter with you people? You got no respect for the 80-some, 90,000 or 20,000 people that listen to you guys. You people represent this city. You're doing a poor job about it. The lawyer, he don't care. Pay me, and that's all that makes him happy. You people have to understand, we voted for them to be here, all 5 of you. You notice the lawyer here, he's all the time. Few of these people are here all the time. I've been asking so-claimed lawyer for a couple years ago Why don't we get a financial report when they turn one into you people? I think he must have told somebody on the moon, because I've never got a result from anything. But you people have to remember, we put you there, we'll put you out. As far as the lawyer goes, he should have been gone a long time ago. But you keep keeping him, excuse me if I may say, you get a tuition from him, you get a tuition, you get a tuition, and the other two get a tuition, I guess. I can't believe you people are bought so easy. Once you take a vote from their pocket, you're gone. You're history. You no longer vote for what's benefiting this whole city. The only thing you worry about is being reelected and hope that you get another bonus from him. That's what politics is all about. You people have no respect for the people that put you up there. And you other people that work for the city of Baldwin Park, you don't respect anybody that works here or lives here. I've been here a whole bunch of years, and I've never seen a city council so disrespectful to us public
Your time is up,
as
Mr.
you
Luna.
guys in the past.
Sorry, your time is
City
up,
Council.
Mr. Luna.
Oh, I ran out of time. Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
John Rios, resident. One of the things that I talked to Ron, and I told him to give me his phone number, and he never returns my call for one thing, about who's going to be covering the weekends on street vendors that we've been having again. I called Enrique too. He doesn't return my call. He was supposed to let me know that you guys had gone to an agreement with the union and see who was going to work or who wasn't going to work, how you guys going to pay him or not. I called the chief and I told him I needed to talk to him. He told me he was going to give me a call. You never did, Chief. You know, one of the things that the earlier meeting that the gentleman gave us that presentation was very good. But some of the areas that I've told the chief, Enrique, Manny, and Ron, and even Sam, we need to get rid of that encampment that we have right there at Morgan Park. Not at Morgan Park, Barnes Park. It's right behind the city yard, but you guys haven't done anything. You know, I hate to come every time that we come over here and talk about the same thing, but you guys are not really responding to us. You know, the community right now, like I told the chief, they don't want to call the police department because of the policy that they have. Somebody calls in, and the first thing that the officers do is go to their house. So if you're a gang member or whatever in the area, and you see that, and then they arrest somebody, they know who called them up, who's a snitch or whatever you guys want to call it. But one of the things you have to understand, that's the reason that I wanted to talk to the chief. We have to find a way to get the information from the public and not get him involved on something like that. That's why we have so much crime out there. Yeah. It's disgusting. I've been here 45 years. And you guys have to open your eyes up. The thing about the homeless and everything, I understand they have rights, but we have the rights too. We're paying everybody's salary.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. I guess I wasn't full of BS. We got another guy that's pissed off at the chief. All I got was copy and paste on his emails when I wanted parking taken care of over at Royal Coaches. I had to take it upon myself to file code enforcement problems with Royal Coaches and all the illegal building to get him to wake up. You know, this, I don't know what you guys need. You guys need something like a bomb to go off? You got bad help here, and you got a bad chief that doesn't return phone calls, and I can be attest to that also. The other thing is, let's go to Mr. Tafoya. First of all, he takes $550,000. He had to sell his house because he had back taxes to pay because he hasn't paid taxes in several years. Okay, now he's talking about this civil attorney. If you people want to have, why don't you ask your $300,000 a year finance director, how much did that civil attorney cost you to try and prosecute me over here on the signs for Pacheco that was corrupt, and he did admit his guilt? How much? Ask him how much money they spent, and we got no charges. And ask him about the Amit across the street with the car wash. Signs are still up. Ask him, where did they go with it? Nowhere. Ask him how much money it costs to drive from Fullerton up to El Monte and go and file the charges, do all this stuff, go back and forth, and then trip time. I don't know if any of you have had attorneys other than Tafoya's BS, but this thing is ridiculous. You're not going to get a civil attorney. This guy doesn't have the power to do what Tafoya is saying. And the thing was, he's a joke, and it costs the city a lot of money. He comes all the way from Fullerton, and they did a bunch of BS over in Fullerton, and nothing got resolved out of it. So this firms that he hires, because he gets kickback, just like Jimmy Gutierrez, $65,000 it costs the city to try to file a phony restraining order on me from Monica and Lozano and all the crybabies, okay? Because I went to a function, a convention, which I had the right to do that. So you spent $65,000 of the city money and you lost the case. And you made yourselves look like idiots. Now, I'm not talking about the current council, but this is past council, okay? And we got Hernandez over here that hid a $3,000 donation from Tafoya after his election. He did it in January, so nobody would look at his little form. But yeah, he was bought and paid for by Tafoya, just like all the other people. The Rubios and everybody else have been bought and paid for by Tafoya. Why do you think he had his $500,000 debt? Because he's always paying people off. Wait till he gets done with Rialto when we get done with him over in Rialto. Thank you.
Sir.
Buenas noches, me llamo Abel, 41 años en Baldwin Park, business owner, 41 años también. Ahora mi complaint es de que pues veo que no está haciendo mucho la ciudad por nosotros, los ciudadanos. Yo paso diario por las calles, quito anuncios, quito todo porque no están trabajando como debe de ser. No es mi trabajo, ¿verdad? No es mi trabajo, pero los quito porque mucha gente viene de otras ciudades, pone anuncios, no pagan taxes aquí en la ciudad y los remuevo porque nosotros los pagamos. Entonces, es una cosa que me molesta. Otra cosa que también he visto que mucha basura en la ciudad, se ve muy fea la ciudad también y tenemos que limpiarla, no podemos limpiarla y no nos ayudan, ¿ok? Tienen que ayudarnos para limpiarla porque está muy feo. Tengo todo aquí, todas las fotos, cómo se ve fea la ciudad. No la limpiamos, no le va a gustar la ciudad a la gente, se va a estar yendo. Los que viven de otras ciudades, está muy feo, vamos por otra parte mejor. Hay que cooperar para estar bien en la ciudad. Y también otro complaint de que necesitamos policías. Yo nunca vi un policía en mi área. Estoy pagando taxi, nunca vi un policía en la noche. que vigile, pagamos taxis, también que vigile de vez en cuando, no digo que esté conmigo todos los días, pero sí que dé vueltas alrededor, qué pasa con los negocios, porque los negocios nos salen caros para mantenerlos, lo que gastamos es mucho dinero también, y si no nos unimos, estamos destruyendo nuestra ciudad. Hay muchas cosas que tenemos que cooperar para ser fuertes aquí en la ciudad, ¿ok? Eso es para todos, el chief of police, para todos, no nomás para uno, para todos.
Good evening. My name is Abel, 41 years in Baldwin Park. The complaint I have tonight is that the city is not doing enough for us. I go to the streets because the people that work for the city are not working, and other people come from other cities and they put different flyers and posters and I clean them up. And there's also an issue with the trash. There's trash everywhere. The city doesn't look good. It looks like an ugly city right now, and we need to help cleaning it up. If we don't clean, people who come visit the city from other cities, they will say, no, this city of Baldwin Park doesn't look clean. They're going to go somewhere else, you know. Another area is the police. I never see a police patrol around my area. I know I don't want the police with me all the time, but every once in a while it would be nice if I see a police car patrolling my area. And then the businesses also, we have to support them because that creates revenues. And we need to unite or else the city is going to go down.
También en el freeway, atrás de Walmart y en el otro lado hay mucho grafiti, se ponen a rayar sobre el grafiti que está hecho, lo rayan y no hay quien lo borre. ¿Con quién vamos a recurrir entonces? ¿Con ustedes o con quién? No sé yo con quién reporto, pero no lo han borrado. Ya tiene como 3, 4 meses allí. Entonces, mucha basura también, demasiada basura atrás del Jack in the Box. Yo le digo a los del Jack in the Box que no reportan. Hay que ayudarnos para estar bien en la ciudad.
Another thing is behind Walmart, next to the freeway, there's a lot of trash and there's graffiti. There's graffiti everywhere, and I have reported the issues a couple of times, and no one comes to clean it up. You know, during a period of 2 to 3 months, I've been reporting this trash and this graffiti, and behind the Jack in the Box also, and we need to take care of all that. Thank you.
Mayor, elected officials, Jesse Plata, resident from Baldwin Park. Now, first of all, I'd like to say some of the gentlemen that came here and spoke, they were pointing it out exactly the way it is. Who do you represent? Do you represent the homeowner, the person that's been here for years, paying taxes and everything? Or do you represent this homeless? Or are you looking after the grants that you're getting supposedly to put projects for them? Those projects cost the taxpayers inflation. Who's paying for that? Every resident here that is paying taxes. Now, last time that I said that this proposition that you want to increase the sales tax, well, if I have to buy a water heater, I guess I'm going to go somewhere else. That's going to be higher right here. I really don't know who you are representing. Now, let me tell you about previous meeting. It happened to be that somebody from the city asked me, what did I do after? I told him, I went from here. I said, I was looking forward to a cup of coffee and a pastry. Pastries are something that I touch maybe once a month. But anyway, I went to Yum Yum Donut. Right on Baldwin Park Boulevard. There was like 8, maybe 9, sitting down there homeless, shaking off change from everybody. I said, I'm not going through that door. I drive in, 4 on the other door, a other door, because there's 3 doors, 2 more. Well, I have had encounters with them. And some of the people have said that they are violent. They are. That ain't the first time I've seen that. About a year ago, right here, there's only one Pollo Loco. I had to ask the manager to open the back door so that I could get out of there. Because there was somebody right there in the front door shaking people off, demanding. And now I asked her, do you ever call the police? They might be here in a week or so. Now, you're bringing in all those people that nobody ever does a background check on them. Now, we're not here. Right now, they should be very happy that there's so many jobs around. There's so many jobs out there, there's no reason why they should be looking for handouts. And I was born during a time when you do for yourself, when it was, don't ask the government, do what you can do for your government. Not only was I born, brought up with those principles. Thank you.
Anybody else looking to speak? Not. I will move to close public communication, and we will go to our consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
just want to recognize Chief Martinez for coming out here once again. Appreciate it. With our local fire department.
Yes, nice to see the chief of fire department. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we will go to the consent calendar, and we will. I think we're only going to consider 1 through 7 items. 8 and 9 have been recommended by staff to be pulled. So, is there any other items between 1 and 7 that council would like to pull or discuss?
I'd like to pull item number 5, Mayor.
Okay. Is that it? Any others? If not, I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar items 1 through 7, excluding item 5, and tabling item 8 and 9. Can I get a second? City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Emanuel Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila, Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Monica Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine is regarding the BID. Just have a couple of questions on the advisory committee. When was the last time that the advisory committee met? And the second question, I guess I'll go on with the second as well, is I know the last time that we discussed this, we had spoken about opening this up to fill the BIT advisory committee of local business owners from the city. So have we started to explore that, or what are our next steps to get this going?
So I'll answer the last question, and then Rose will help me. I know we've met not frequently, because as you may recall, the board is made up of the executive team, E-team, and we meet every week, but obviously specific as the bid board, we have not met very frequently. And yes, I know your direction had been, Mayor Pro Tem Damon, the direction of the council was that we bring in representatives from the business community. And yes, we intend to do that. We apologize that we have not yet done it.
Okay, can we start the process of opening this up to see if any of our local business owners would want to apply to serve on this BID advisory committee? We could start this process. You guys can start this process as soon as possible, so we can get that open.
Yes.
That's all I had for now. If anyone else has any other questions, None. I'll make a motion to pass item number 5.
Second. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila, Councilmember Monica Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. So we have a public hearing regarding fiscal year 2021-2022 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report for the CAPR. And then staff recommends that the mayor and city council conduct a public hearing. And then, is there any presentations regarding the? Is that related to the CAFR, Rose?
Yes.
Great. Do you want to give us a little bit of a brief overview?
Yes. The city's independent auditor has completed performing the citywide audit. Oh, the capers. Sorry. I thought it's careful. Sorry. Because the mayor showing the. Sorry. I thought it's the careful that you're asking for. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah. So I was asking if it's similar, if it's the same thing as the item on here, because I don't see any. What's the item for this?
That was item number 4.
Okay.
We have our auditor there too.
Yeah, because I know.
Would you like the auditor make the presentation?
Yes, because I know Mayor Pro Tem was interested in it. We want to. You can do the presentation.
Okay. Yes. So let me give you a little briefing. The city's independent auditor has completely performing the citywide annual audit, and we recommend the city council to file the CAFR, and there is no fiscal impact to receive and file the effort. The city's general fund balance increased by 5.3 million, and reserve fund balance increased by 4.2 million from prior fiscal year. The increase is due to taking proactive planning to ensure the city maintain a solid financial position despite the pandemic outbreak. The increase in fund balance is mainly due to combination of increase in revenue and decrease in expenditure from the unfilled PD vacancies and closed recreation programs during the pandemic. And also the auditor have a couple of recommendations. I have David from the auditing firm ID Bali here. He's going to present he's going to make the presentation to the city council.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may. For clarification, we went back to item number 4 on consent. I would need a motion from the city council to pull item 4. Even though you've already approved it, are you just doing a presentation or the votes won't change? What?
Just the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Good evening. My name is David Showalter, for the record, with Ide Bailey. And I want to just say good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for having us present the results of the fiscal year 21 audit. So we are a little late with the 21 audit. But we are going to present that to you. You should have a copy of the annual comprehensive financial report. We'll be making some reference to that. And then we also have a slide presentation that will go through the results of the audit. Do I have control of this?
Just say next slide.
Okay. Next slide. Thanks.
IT will have control.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go over the results of the 21 audit. This is the agenda that we'll go through, and I'll try to go through this quickly. Next slide. Again, my name is David Showalter with Ide Bailey. I'm the partner in charge of the audit for the financial statement audit. Sarah Kurtz was the technical partner. Chris Ng and David Morris served as the audit manager. Next slide. The scope of our audit is the audit of the annual financial statements for the city. The financial statements are prepared by management, and our responsibility is to render an opinion on those financial statements, that they're fairly presented in all material respects. We're also auditing the city's federal financial assistance, so that's their federal expenditures. That's the 2 CFR single audit. We also perform the GAN limit agreed upon procedures. We also help prepare the state controllers reports. We also helped assist with the preparation of the financial statements. Next slide. So in our audit, our responsibility is to render an opinion on the financial statements, that they're fairly presented in all material respects. That opinion is the highest level of assurance that we provide as independent auditors. There's also other reports that we're presenting to you. There's a report on internal controls and compliance. So that report is primarily a report where if there are findings, we report those out to you through that report. Because the city is a governmental entity, we follow government auditing standards as well. So there is a separate report that's in compliance with those government auditing standards. In addition, we render an opinion on the city's compliance over the federal major programs that we're auditing. And then the financial statements, as you are aware, there are a lot of components to your financial statements. The financial statements themselves, which is the balance sheet, income statement, footnotes, that's what we're rendering the opinion directly on. There's other supplementary information that's included in your financial statements, such as a management's discussion analysis and supplementary information. That information, we provide limited assurance over that information in the report. Next slide. So again, our responsibilities under U.S. generally accepted auditing standards is to provide an opinion on the fair presentation of your financial statements. As I mentioned earlier, management is responsible for the financial statements. That isn't our responsibility. Management prepares the financial statements. They're responsible for the assertions in those financial statements, such as cash exists and debt balances are complete, and other assertions that are in that report. Our job is to audit the financial statements to obtain a reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented. Next slide. And again, management's responsibilities for the fair presentation of the financial statements. Management also has the responsibility to ensure that there are internal controls designed and in place to ensure that the information that goes into the financial statements is free of error and material misstatement because of errors or fraud. Next slide, please. So the summary of our audit results. So in the report, page 1 is the opinion. So if you have the annual financial report, that's where you're going to find our audit opinion. Our audit opinion basically says that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. It's a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. There's an emphasis of matter, which means that we're just pointing out some items within the financial statements that we want to bring to the reader's attention. One of them is an implementation of a new accounting pronouncement, and the other is the fact that we had prior period adjustments to the financial statements. In addition, we have 2 material weaknesses that we're reporting in our government auditing standards report. Next slide. For the single audit, this year we have 3 major programs. Those programs include the Section 8 program, Coronavirus Relief Fund program, and the CDBG program. We're currently in the process of finishing that single audit, and we should have that completed in the next few weeks. That coverage is around 96% of the total federal awards, so it's almost 100%. The Coronavirus Relief Fund, the CRF, of $941,000 is a new program. A lot of cities receive the CRF funding, and we are auditing pretty much all of our cities' CRF funds this last year. Going into next year, just as a heads up, the ARPA funds will be audited next year. So those are funds that the city received in advance and is working through and expending those funds on various projects. So that program will be an audit program that we'll be auditing next year. The classification, the city is classified as a high-risk auditee. What that means is that in the last 2 years, the city had a material weakness in internal controls, so that prevents the city from being a low-risk auditee. And all that really means is that we have to audit more than 40% of your federal wards, which we have that coverage already. As I mentioned, the audit fieldwork is in process. Next slide. So getting to the financial statements, some financial highlights that I'll go over with you. So the financial statements are made up of basically two different financial statements. There's one financial statement that is what we refer to as the full accrual financial statement. That's the financial statement that has all of your assets, your liabilities, all of your long-term assets, and all of your long-term liabilities reflected on that financial statement. We refer to that as the statement of net position. For the year, the net position increased to $170,000. Again, due to a combination of revenues and expenses, there was also prior period adjustments to that financial statement. Overall, revenues increased by $3.5 million, from about $60 million in last year to $63 million this year, 2021. And your overall expenses decreased, so that definitely resulted in an overall position of there was an increase in that position, but the fact that we had prior period adjustments, that reduced your net position last year compared to this year, so the overall increase was $170,000. On your governmental fund financial statements, your governmental fund statements are on a modified accrual basis of accounting. That means we don't report long-term assets in those funds, and we don't report long-term liabilities in those funds. Only short-term assets and short-term liabilities are reported in those funds. It's a near-term focus, more like a budget presentation. For your governmental funds, your expenditures decreased in 21. Your largest decreases were seen in your public safety and recreation. Your governmental fund expenditures in fiscal 21 were $56.9 million, and in 2020 they were $59.9 million. And as far as your liabilities, going back to that statement of net position, this is the financial statement that does report your long-term liabilities, and some of your more significant liabilities are going to be your pension and your OPEB liabilities, as well as your third-party claims liabilities. Your pension liability increased $2.5 million, increased from $2.5 million in 2020 to $7.1 million in 2021. This is primarily due to the plan asset investment results. And if you recall, a few years ago, you issued long-term debt and committed those funds to CalPERS. But the market, of course, based on the market returns, your liability will fluctuate based on those rate of returns on those investments. Your OPEB liability increased from $36 million to $42 million this past year, and your claims liability increased from $12 million to $16 million. So overall, your liability structure did increase in 2021, which helped offset some of that revenue gain that you had in the current year as well. Your unfunded, with your claims liability, just one thing I wanted to point out is that that liability is unfunded by about $8.6 million. So you have a $16 million claims liability, but you're about half funded on that claims liability. So there is some catching up to do to get that liability closer to a 70% mark or 80% mark, which is where your actuarial standards typically want you to be at for your claims liability. Next slide. So the general fund total fund balance increased $14.9 million during the year. This is higher than projected general fund budget deficit of $219,000 for fiscal year 21. That's on page 83 of the report. You'll see that. Included in the increase is approximately $9.6 million of prior period adjustments related to GASB 84 implementation and accounting errors that we identified in the audit that resulted in prior period adjustments. We also noted that there was some classification changes with your fund balance that also increased your unassigned fund balance. As of June 30th, 2021, city's general fund non-spendable fund balance was $25 million. What non-spendable fund balance is that it's a fund portion of fund balance that's not liquid. You can't spend it. Primarily, they're made up of long-term loans that are in the general fund and other funds. Your committed and assigned fund balance was $5.9 million. Committed means that the city council has committed those funds for a specific purpose, and assigned means that management has assigned those funds for a particular purpose. So that balance was $5.9 million. That fund balance can certainly be redirected to another purpose, but for the financial statement purposes, it's classified as committed and assigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance was $13.9 million for a total of $45.2 million, which represented a $14.9 million from the prior year's general fund balance. Again, the majority of that increase was related to revenue increases, expenditure decreases, as well as some prior period adjustments that we had that increased the fund balance year over year. At the end of the year, the general fund's unassigned fund balance of $13.9 million represents 51% of total general fund expenditures, which is a pretty healthy balance, pretty healthy level. That's about 6 months of general fund expenditures. So again, we're looking at a point in time, at the end of 2021. So I know we're already at the end of 2022, but at that point in time, that's where your fund balance was. Next slide. And this just shows the trajectory of your fund balance, unassigned fund balance in the general fund. And you can get a comparison between this year, end of 21, end of 20, end of 19, and you can see the increase. Again, that increase had some combinations of revenue increases along with some prior period adjustments where we reclassified certain fund balance that was presented as committed in 2020, but it didn't meet the criteria for committed under GAAP, so it went down into the unassigned classification. That was primarily a reserve balance that was not classified correctly. Next slide. This is a table that's in the financial statements that lists all the prior period adjustments that we had. So a prior period adjustment means that there was an error that we identified in the audit, and that error should have been recorded in the prior year's financial statements. So we had to go back and adjust the beginning fund balance in order to adjust for the correction of that error. For the general fund, there was about $9.6 million in adjustments. The housing asset fund had about $7.8 million. The other grants fund, we actually reduced that fund balance by $2.2 million. And then the other funds was $6.7 million. We also had an implementation of a new accounting pronouncement that did bring some fund balance from one of the fiduciary funds into the general fund. Next slide. So with the 2021 audit, we did encounter some challenges with the audit. There were several new funds that were identified that we had to audit specifically under our professional auditing standards. The financial statements have to present certain funds as what we refer to as major funds. And they're major funds because they reach a certain qualitative threshold. For this year, the Housing Authority Fund and the other grants fund met that criteria, and so they had to be reported as major funds. That means we have to opine on those funds individually. It means the materiality goes down, and we have to expand our scope on those particular funds. The Housing Authority Fund had a revenue increase of about $1 million because of the CARES Act funds that were pushed through Section 8. The other grants fund also had an increase of expenditures related to CRF and some other programs. Also to point out, that fund was classified as major. There was about $3.5 million of negative cash in the grants fund. That negative cash gets reclassified to a liability. So that liability on the balance sheet caused that fund to be a major fund. And just for your information, the Internal Insurance Fund is the fund that sort of provides the cash flow for that grants fund. That grants fund is primarily a reimbursement-based fund, so expenditures have to be incurred first before the city can received the reimbursement from the granting agencies. And then the enterprise fund, we had the Be Proud Utility District, which was a brand new fund in 2021, which required us to really get an understanding of that program. And there's definitely some detailed testing that needed to be done over accounts receivable that was recorded in that fund, to make sure that we were understanding exactly how the revenue recognition should be recognized. We understand that fund, that program has been terminated, and we'll have one more year to audit that fund for 2022 before it winds down. And then we had a new accounting pronouncement this year, GASB 84, which required certain fiduciary activities to be presented in the general fund. And then we had a subsequent event this year. A subsequent event means that that's something that happened after the issuance, after the date of the financial statements, which was June 30th of 2021. So one item that we have in the financial statements is that the city received the first allocation of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds of about $11.4 million. That $11.4 million is not revenue. You can't recognize revenue until you actually spend the funds on eligible expenses, so it'll be recognized as a deferred revenue until that point in time. Next slide. So our required communications to the council. You also have a letter that we've provided for you, a separate letter. There was a letter that had our required communications included, and there's also a report on internal controls. For the report on internal controls, we'll cover the findings. The first finding is dealing with period availability and unavailable revenues. So in that special grants fund, what we identified were that there were revenues recognized prior to there were revenues recognized in the prior years, but the invoices for those revenues had not been submitted to the granting agencies. And so under generally accepted accounting principles, you have to establish a period availability. Basically, every government agency has to assume for the fund financial statements that our revenues, if we don't collect them within a certain time after the end of the year, we're not going to count them as revenue at June 30th. They're going to be revenue in the next period because you can't budget it, you can't use it. So for the city, that was about a $2 million adjustment that we had to basically reduce the prior year fund equity. And we had some adjustments this year in order to correct the balances. So the recommendation is really the city to work through an understanding of the period availability and the revenue recognition, and the city has provided a response to that finding. The next slide. As part of the audit, we work through an understanding of the entity. We work through an understanding of internal controls. The city is responsible for closing the records, closing the books, preparing trial balances. The city had a tremendous amount of turnover during the year, during the audit. And we worked with various different accounting managers as we were working through the audit. Thankful that we have Henry, who helped us get the audit finished. But during that course of the audit, there were quite a few audit adjustments that we had. We had about 37 audit adjustments and a couple of past audit adjustments, which were immaterial. So that really adds a lot of time and effort to the audit to make sure that we have everything right in the financial statements. So really the recommendation is just really improving the year-end closing process, make sure we have enough people to do the close, make sure that we have checklists and we're accounting and we're looking at and we're reconciling all the balance sheet accounts. Because once we have that information for the audit, when we're spending the time trying to reconcile, that's really where there's a control weakness, because that's not really our responsibility to do that. The city has provided a response to that, and I do want to add that as we working through those challenges, the city was very proactive in making sure that those accounts were being reconciled, that we were getting what we needed for the audit. There were just quite a few areas that we had to work through. Next slide. So one other observation that we have is your grants management policies and procedures. So the city receives quite a few grants from different agencies, different federal agencies, different state agencies. And what we discovered in the audit was that some of these receivables that were on the books actually were for amounts for expenditures that actually hadn't been billed to those granting agencies. So that really puts a strain on the city from a cash flow perspective. When you're expending your own funds on a reimbursement basis and you're not billing that granting agency on a timely basis, then you're basically using the city's funds to finance the costs of those projects, and you're not earning any interest on those funds. And ultimately, that triggered and resulted in quite a few adjustments that we had this year. So really the recommendation is just making sure there's communication between all the departments on what grants you have, maybe keeping a listing of all those grants that you're responsible for, making sure that other departments are communicating back to finance so that finance can make sure they get those grants recorded in the financial statements properly. And again, management has provided a response to that as well. Next slide. And then this is our required communications with respect to the results of the audit. These are things that we're required to communicate with you. We are independent of the city. As far as we know, the city did not consult with any other accountants. We did not have any difficulties with management that we needed to bring to your attention. We had no disagreements. The significant accounting policies, we've already talked about the fact that there was an implementation of an accounting pronouncement and there was a restatement of the financial statements. The significant estimates that are in the financial statements primarily relate to actuarial determinations for your pension, your OPEB, and your claims liability. Again, the audit adjustments are attached to your letter that you have. Again, there were about 37 audit adjustments that we had this year. Material misstatements that affect prior year's reports. We have to communicate to you that your prior financial statements were adjusted through this year's audit by restating the beginning fund balance. Prior financial statements are not getting reissued. There were no irregularities or fraud or illegal acts that came to our attention, and management signed the representation letter. And lastly, the last slide is just a snapshot of some of the new accounting pronouncements that are coming. I will only mention the one is GASB 87, which is for 2022. This is going to require the city to record all of your leases on the balance sheet. Not capital leases, but all your operating leases will now be recorded as liabilities on your balance sheet. So again, more liabilities that are going on your balance sheet, which is a goal of the GASB, is to make sure we get all of those liabilities reflected on financial statements so the user of the financial statement has a full picture of all the obligations of the city. The rest of the GASB pronouncements you can see when they'll be implemented, but the lease accounting standard is by far going to be a very challenging accounting pronouncement, but we're willing to and ready to help the city work through that. So, next slide. And then lastly, for next year's audit, there will be a change in the presentation of the audit opinion. At the very high level, the opinion paragraph is going to go up to the very beginning of the report. So that'll be very easy for everyone to see the opinion, and that'll be helpful for those who are trying to hunt through the report to find where's the audit opinion. So it'll be right at the very top of the report. And with that, I do want to thank Rose and Henry and their staff with the audit this year. I know that it took longer than expected. We worked through quite a few challenges. I feel like we really dug in there and found a lot of good things for the city to work on from an internal controls perspective. And I'm hopeful that it'll be helpful for the city moving forward. So I want to thank them for all their hard work and effort and open it up for any questions.
Great, thank you. Well, we definitely are thankful for you for doing the work and working with the city staff. We want to make sure that we are always on top of things and how we can always improve and be better. At this point, I don't have any questions, so I will open it up for council. Do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions either, but thank you for the recommendations so that we can follow through, and next time it'll be a little better. Even though it was good, but you'll find less problems.
I just have a question. Rose, we are taking the steps to address the period of availability, the balance sheet reconciliations, and the grants management that he spoke about, correct?
Yes, in the management response, we provided that we are going to have a comprehensive written procedure and policies, and we'll send it to you and the city departments to follow. And you will receive that pretty soon. As I stated in the management's response, and for time savings, I believe the auditor did not read through the management response, which are the actions and plans that we plan to take.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to just confirm that we are going to start implementing the new policies and procedures that were spoken about so that we can pass. It was a good audit, but we can just make those corrections for the next audit.
Yes, we already working with all the departments closely and already start implement the plans and actions. We are going to put it in writing also.
Perfect. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, David.
Mayor for Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. And just to piggyback off of Mayor Pro Tem's comments, my suggestion would be to staff, if you can provide us a timeline and a report for when that be. In the past, what you also did when we had, when we had to update some of our procedures and policies, you also created a report that was given to us on during our council packages on a consent basis, so that way we can track the progress of all the audit and changes and procedures that needed to be implemented. And again, thank you for that, because again, as you illustrated, you made sure that our books are in the right order. So that's very helpful for us, because it just sets us up for success moving forward. So instead of 37 next year, we'll have 0. So thank you for that, and that would be my request of staff.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for being here tonight. All right, so we are going back to our public hearing item. So we have public hearing regarding fiscal year 2021-2022 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPR. So I will go ahead and open up the public hearing regarding the fiscal year 2021-2022. It's for anybody who has any comments. Nobody has any comments. I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And I will go ahead and make a motion for item number 10, unless any comments or questions are from the council. All right. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve item 10 and then authorize the city manager to transmit this report to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development by the deadline of September 28, 2022. Can I get a second?
Second.
City clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Danny Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila, Councilmember Monica Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then we have a reports of officers, discuss the City of Baldwin Park's diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, and staff recommends that the City Council discuss and provide feedback and direction on the attached DEI policy. Does any council members have any comments or questions?
Absolutely. I'd happy to start on the conversation. If you recall, we all started this back in March when we brought this up. What we have in front of us is just a springboard of a foundation for us to look at. The intent today is to get some initial feedback from the council and staff, so that way in the near future here, perhaps in the second week or second meeting of October, we could have a much greater policy that really looks at diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of everything that we do as a city, through our hiring process, through our workforce development, through our staff development, and also through our community programs. So again, this is a piece that's looked at through the eyes of supporting our community and supporting all those that work in our city and for our city. Again, the intent is to get folks' feedback so that way Enrique and staff could come back at a later time, perhaps in the second week we could do a study session to have a much greater discussion in and around this policy that we'll hopefully be able to adopt as a city. Enrique, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez, and yes, thank you for acknowledging that it's an iterative process. Yet at this point, driving toward what could and we would want to be a final policy adopted by the City Council. And, many of us have probably grown professionally or in our jobs through many phases of whether it's equal employment opportunity, iterations in previous policies, and I'm talking, in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, and then, racial equity, gender equity, and many other that eventually became protected classes legally. But the idea of the diversity, inclusion, and is to be all-encompassing, not just because it's a protected class, but because it's the right thing to do. I mean, in the last 3 years, for sure, we have seen the LGBT community now being fully brought into the same discussion that had happened with other previous protected classes. But you said it well, Councilmember Hernandez. It's not just for our workforce; it's for how we serve our community, and it can be used for any program that we set up as a service to the community. And so I think giving us the extra time, you approved earlier an HR consultant whom I know has quite a bit of experience in this area for us to be able to develop the policy with more refinement and more areas of applicability, then we can bring back a more comprehensive document.
Great. Thank you for that, Enrique, and thank you for that, Councilmember Hernandez. I agree. I think it's a great idea and a good policy to keep pushing forward and keep working on. Are there any other comments from council or questions? All right. So, Councilmember Hernandez, you want to go ahead and make a motion?
All right, let's just go back to that item. Again, sorry, as we find it back up here. There he is. I make a motion to have staff prepare and also provide additional inputs with council and other stakeholders in regards to the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, and hopefully to begin and have a study session at the second meeting in October. That is my motion.
There you go. Second. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Paul Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila? Councilmember Monica Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian?
Yes.
Mayor Manuel Estrada?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you for that. And so we have our City Council acting as a successor agency for the South Community Development Commission. Excuse me. We do have a consent calendar, and I'll go ahead make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Can I get a second? City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Manuel Estrada?
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila? Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian?
Yes.
Councilmember Monica Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that, City Clerk. And then before we go to our staff requests and communications, we are going to do our Baldwin Park Finance Authority regular meeting. And I believe we have a consent calendar, so I will make a motion to approve that. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair Estrada?
Yes.
Board Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Damian?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then we do have an agenda for the Baldwin Park Housing Authority regular meeting, and I will make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second? City Clerk.
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Chair Estrada?
Yes.
Board Member Avila?
Yes.
Vice Chair Damian?
Yes.
Board Member Garcia? Board Member Garcia?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Board Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. And then we do have the agenda for the Baldwin Park Charitable Relief Foundation for the regular meeting. And there is a consent calendar for the annual financial report for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2022. And I'll go ahead and make a motion to pass the consent calendar. Can I get a second? City Clerk, roll call, please.
Board Member Estrada?
Yes.
Chair Estrada.
Yes. No
Board
worries.
Member Avila? Vice Chair Damian?
Yes.
Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Board Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you for that. And so now we are back to our staff request and communications. Councilmember Hernandez, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Again, this request is for staff and more importantly for our city council and mayor for us to discuss and explore preparedness concerning climate change facing our city. This is, I believe, a very timely item for us to look at as a whole. And we're looking at in the sense of, how climate change is actually impacting our residents. For the last, unfortunately, week and a half ago, and it looks like again, we'll be looking at triple digits heat coming this week. Again, those are things that are impacting our city, but also looking at the policies in which we as a city can undertake immediately, and also for long terms, right? As we're looking at electrifying, our fleet, but also providing those opportunities for our city in and around workforce development and so forth. So this is a longer conversation, but I'm hoping that we can begin having some of this, discussion amongst all of us, and along perhaps with a couple, outside organizations that could help us lead the conversation. I know of a few that we can certainly, invite or ask them to help us figure this, at least provide us some direction, and then for us to look at. So that would be my request for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Not just with that, but also keeping in mind that we don't have the best air quality here in the city of Baldwin Park. So making sure that we are going greener, that we're reducing the pollutants in our air is really beneficial, not just for us, but of course the air quality, and then of course the families and children that are developing in the community. So making sure that our air quality gets better and healthier is should be a top priority. I think Alhambra has a net. I think they have like a net zero vision, policy. So maybe we can even look at that and try to see how we can formulate that to become something for Baldwin Park.
I have another item for request, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, this item is in partnership with our chief. Chief, thank you very much for working with us. We've been talking about crime stats and having a better sense of where our city lies in regards to the resources that you need and our city's kind of facing with. So I'd like to request, in partnership with the chief, because he's aware of this, for us to discuss the crime stats that you'll provide with us with a written report at our October 5th council. And we can add that as our reports by officers agenda items. So again, the chief has graciously been able to figure out some of the crime stat information. As you know, it's been an uphill battle and challenge for his department, but with his staff and his team, they've been able to start producing some information that I think, we need to be educated as to what the new crime standards are and reporting standards are, but ultimately, showcase where we're going. And I know the chief is quite committed to it and has spent a lot of energy and time around this. So I'm really happy that at least the information that we've been able to work on and produce now here, we can certainly share it and expand on some of the items, and certainly more importantly, ask what the councils might, what they might ask or explore once we have that discussion on the October the 5th.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Great. And then I didn't add them, but last minute items. I know the American Legion grant is about to expire. I did talk to them, and I think that they still have a reasonable amount of funding. So I want to see if we can bring that back next meeting and expand it for another year, give them that time to keep going. I know that they've been working on the major issues, and now they're trying to work on other issues. I think it's with their outside, their flooring, their lighting, their kitchen.
Yes.
We want to make sure we give them that opportunity and expand it. And then I know that there's been a lot of talk around what's going to happen, or maybe not enough talk formally, what's going to happen with some of the buildings at Serenity Homes. We just heard from Project Littles, who's been really trying to help and set up a community fridge there, which I think would be a reasonable idea, where it could be a satellite site for people to go and get resources. We don't always host food drives, but if we could have a small space where people can collect dry shelf-stable foods, that would be beneficial. And then considering that, maybe have a discussion on what we can do with the other ones. I know sometimes PD looks for places to keep a DV victim for a couple of days. One of those is one of the structured buildings is available. That might be a possibility.
Yes, that would be helpful for us when we are looking for DV housing.
All right. So if there's no more comments or questions, we should be done with this, but I believe we are going back into closed session. So as at this point, we will recess into closed session. Good night, everybody.